once again. The technical problems that we had this week are just beyond belief, mostly it's because we're having to record at the moment program. This is Keith Hayes with Mirador Television coming out of Lewes in East Sussex. It's always said in the industry, if you actually record a program, you never do it as well as when the adrenaline is flowing because you're doing it live. And that is still, to this day, very true. Yes, the same urgency isn't there. You know you could stop and go back, whereas when you're doing it live, you can't. You've got to carry on. Hopefully I'll pretend that we're doing it live and not recording it this morning, and hopefully we will be going back to live pretty soon. The big problem is the broadband, or at least the access to data and the access to Wi-Fi when you're out and about, which I am this morning. I'm broadcasting from Lewes High Street. There we are, and as you can see, it looks as if it's going to be a brilliant morning. Actually, the sun has just disappeared, but it's still peeking behind that cloud. And I opted to come here after the serenity of doing it from the Magic Circle or the new Peace Park yesterday, to give the contrast of the fact that there is lots of noise pollution around, and that the authorities don't seem to care about it, despite the fact that scientists are now warning that noise pollution can be more dangerous than air pollution, and that it's driving us all bonkers. And well, that I can believe from the antics that we continue to see from our politicians. The leadership of the Conservative Party rumbles on. There we go. We're just there. A lot of noises, and it's only 5 o'clock in the morning. And most of that noise came from garbage vehicles run by the council. It's incredible that something that is destroying us should come from our elected leaders. But then nothing surprises me anymore. So here we are on the high street this morning, and with one or two things that are a bit disturbing. As I said, the leadership contest for the Conservative Party rumbles on. Boris still the front runner, but a few more coming up on the outside rail. It'll be interesting to see what happens, I suppose, in the long run, but I'll be damned if I'm going to watch these televised debates. At one time I would have been agog, but now the trouble is that all they're saying is what they've always said and what we've heard for the last 6 months, in fact for the last 3 years. It'll all be about Brexit. It'll all be about who's going to do what, whether they'll dive out, whether they'll dive in, whether they'll stay put, whether they'll suspend Parliament. I mean, all these things we've heard, and so it makes a debate boring. And I think that it's typical to some extent of our modern media that they still go on these old-fashioned routes in the belief that they're going to inform us. Well, perhaps they're informing some people. Perhaps some people like the cut and thrust of debate as a show. But as an information item, I think that it's a waste of time. Anyway, let's get around to one of my favourite topics, and that is the Lewes District Council. I have expressed my concern that everybody all the political parties have avoided answering one question, and that is, have they got confidence in the executive, the way that it's constituted at the moment, and have they got any plans to do away with what I consider to be an iniquitous system, and that is the cabinet. Now, I have had a response of some sort from one of the Greens, I think it is, or a Lib Dem. Sorry if I get the parties mixed up at the moment because they are interjumbled. And the latest to come out of that is that they are getting together and trying to form an alliance. Not easy, because they're all elected on different platforms, and to sort of then come together and say, well, we all believe one thing, and that is defeating the Conservatives, is a bit of a problem. But nonetheless, They are at least trying. And I think that it's quite important that we give them some support to try, because I don't hold any brief for any of these parties. What I do hold a brief for is democracy. And if you've got one party in power, and particularly with the cabinet system, whether you've got 4 people in power in cahoots with the officers, then democracy is under serious, serious threat. And why we don't recognise it, I have no idea. People don't. Well, yes, some people that I talk to are concerned. But a lot of people sort of shrug their shoulders, oh, that's the way it's always been. And that's when we get ourselves into trouble, because there is nobody to say nay, except us chickens. And at the moment, we don't have a great deal of power. All we can do is we can keep on raising our criticisms of this system and of what the council does, so that at least there is an awareness somewhere of the things that they're doing and the things that might be dangerous. I think there's a scrutiny committee either today or tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow. And if the scrutiny committee does their job properly, then they'll start to ask questions. But nobody publicly is answering those 2 questions about the cabinet system. And just to remind you, the cabinet system is that the leader of the council, who is elected at the last full council meeting, appoints 4 people or 5 people to help form a cabinet, and they call the shots. All those people that you voted for, the councillors, have very little to do with it. And I think that that's wrong. And I think that it's time that we brought back our councillors. After all, we elected them to represent us, and if they're not representing us, what's the point of the system as it is at the moment? And having said that, dear old Boris, about 6 or 7 weeks ago, before this leadership thing came up, said that the way that we're governed at the moment is not fit for purpose, and that there's got to be a root and branch change. And I was assured by a couple of councillors from North London that change was in the air, so let's hope that it is widespread throughout the country, because I talk to people all over the UK, and they've all got the same feeling about their local councils. They are not fit for purpose, or at least not talking about the individuals. The system is not fit for purpose, so it doesn't matter who you are, how good you are. Once you get into that system, you've had it. There's nothing you can do, and it's left to 3 or 4 people, none of whose competence is explained to us to actually govern us. That's one issue, and I'm very disappointed that no political party has stated its position on that. And I got in the Priory News from my own councillor, Ruth O'Keefe, and Ruth is a pretty good counsellor, and I know that she has some thoughts about this, but in her newsletter, not one peep about either of those issues. Well, let's challenge the parties to come clean and say what they believe, so that we can at least understand what they stand for. But the rest is a mere bagatelle, because they can't do anything about it as long as there is the cabinet system. The cabinet calls the shots. And since the next council, it would take absolutely everybody to be in attendance, which is sometimes a rarity, in attendance, and everybody to vote in the same way, with 1 or 2 Conservatives perhaps jumping ship on some issues, for them to be overturned. There are some key issues, particularly the North Street issue, that is going to come up again and again and again. Did we hear anything about it after the last cabinet meeting? No, we did not. So those are the sort of things that I think that need to be brought to the fore. Now, my colleague, Stephen, and Stephen, forgive me if I find some difficulty with your name, so because it's an unusual spelling. It's Weichenstahl, or Weichenstahl, and I do apologise for even trying that, and I will talk to you to make sure that I can get that pronunciation, because it is important that people know who you are, because you seem to be a very bright and sparky councillor, you and 1 or 2 others, and I think that you are worried as individuals about what's going on. But you raised an issue of the trains, that the ticket office is closed, the trains are late again, that generally speaking there are train cancellations, that there are not the right number of people available. In other words, staff is being cut back, and you pose the question, does that mean that either they're going out of business, which I doubt, because Aviva is a very big organisation, so I doubt if they're going to go bust. Although, what the hell, British Steel did, didn't they? So big organisation doesn't preclude going bust. Or they're preparing for a franchise change, so they're not making any sort of investment and not hiring people, and therefore not running the system as they're supposed to. Or, once again, the don't care attitude has crept in. But the train service has taken another dip, and since the RMT have threatened union action against at least one other operator, it's not too far from thinking that perhaps we're going to have those days of misery when you turn up and the train's not going, or if it's going via somewhere that you don't want to go to, and that is going to be late by X number of minutes. For people who commute, live in this town and commute, it is a nightmare, an absolute nightmare, and let's hope like crazy that we're not going to go through that again. Because if we do, then it is time for who's going to be the transport secretary? Who knows? Because Grayling has been a complete and utter disaster. He doesn't accept that Southern is a badly run company. He thinks it's an excellent company. All they've done is they fed him the statistics. He's looked at it on his desk, he signed a piece of paper and he's walked away from it. That's not what a minister should be about. And that's not what our local government should be about. Just a few people who, if they don't give a fig about something particular, then they just ignore it. And that's not the way to run a country. And I think that they couldn't fight their way out of a brown paper bag applies very much to our leadership at the moment, right across the country. And it is time for change. Now, I was laughing with somebody yesterday because there's a children's bib that says, I don't know what I want, but I want it now. And I feel very much like that, as if I'm stamping my feet and saying I want change. I don't know what change I want. What I do want is I want the present systems addressed and looked at, because they ain't working. And there is, I don't know whether it's denial or a fear that they'll look as if they're failures, if either the politicians or, for that matter, the executive, with whom I have serious complaints, are doing their job. Nobody is answering the question. What is it? What is so sacred? One ex-mayor of this county, this district, said to me, the instruction nowadays is the parties must be chummy with the executive. But why? We elect you to be the watchdogs. It shouldn't necessarily be us. We should be watching you, and you should be watching them. As it is, we're having to watch them, and you've almost become an irrelevance. Well, why did you want to change that? Why were you elected? Why did you want to get in power? We'd love to see you get some teeth. And I don't care if you make the wrong decisions, as long as you damn well make some decisions. With the cabinet system, I realised just how difficult it is. Anyway, yesterday, I wasn't able to post a programme because it needs serious tampering with, and it will come out at some stage in the next couple of days. But I did it from the Peace Garden, the old Magic Circle. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. Just absolutely terrific. Do go up there. It's easy to get to. Pope's Passage off the High Street. Go into Castleditch Lane, the old moat. Go up the very ancient stairs, and there it is, a very peaceful little oasis right in the middle of Lewes. And it needs to be peaceful too, because the noise, the cacophony of noise, this is at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. What do you imagine it is as it approaches noon? It's awful, dreadful. One last thing. I think that the police force has got real problems nowadays, but I would like to commend them for recognising on Sunday that this was a World Against Elderly Abuse Day. And the police, the Sussex police, were the only people to recognise it. No other authority that I can find found it, and yet it is a serious issue, because those issues are whether free bus passes go, whether there is a TV license free to over 75s, whether they can get out to enjoy themselves, whether they should be charged money to go into the libraries. All those issues are, in my book, abuse of the elderly. Well, take a look. I didn't shave this morning, so I looked 10 times older than I am, which means I'm about 125. And I'm pissed off with the fact that I'm being abused by those people who are all ready to tell us what a bright, great future we've got, but they are ageist. And a good percentage of those people running our country are ageist. About time we rose up, got our walking sticks, got out of bed, got out of our bath chairs, and marched and said, listen, if the police can recognise it, it's about time you did. Stop this bloody abuse and let us take our proper part in society. Love that bit. See you tomorrow. Till then, toodle pip.